Okay, we're in the second turn, and no, I won't remember turn numbers at some point fairly soon. And the EIR starts things off. It lays some track here. Now it can only lay one track because of its restriction, but that restriction is going to be cleared real soon. And everybody's kind of kicking themselves, but you know, if they hadn't all done what they did, they'd be sitting there without expanding. So really the EIR got kind of the bonus that I said by avoiding groupthink. And it has incentives to avoid it. Building towards beakers, we're gonna, do this kind of swirling track going to connect up the things we need to, as well as in order to get our bond back and try to get income. If I was going as straight as possible, I'd just be running into here, but I want to increase my income. Now I get to run my train. And like an XX game, I'm going to be running between here and here. Is that normal? Yes, but actually I'm only using one of my two numbers. Remember, the big circles are the only things that count against you here. However, I am still allowed to use a doinker as an endpoint. So my run is going to be 30, but my mail run is also going to be 30. And for that, I grab a quick 30 bucks from my company. There's nothing, no decisions that have to be made there. That just gets dumped in. I get to pick one of my endpoint pairs for that. At 30 bucks, I might as well pay this out because I get a share price bonus by doing so. Now remember, this game, if I was able to give out, say, 200 bucks, I would go up 2 spaces. But it's going to be a long time before that, and I might as well make my share values. So because the company does not need 30 bucks. I wouldn't go back if I swallowed, however. So I'm going to be pulling 3 bucks a share in, and this guy is riding me. He'll get 3 bucks, and I'll get my big 9, and that'll go into personal cash there. As soon as that money's been paid out, now I have to make a decision on train, and I'll come back with a discussion on whether or not I'm likely to. But I think I am, because I want to push it into phase change so that I can lay 2 track per turn for free, and I also want to use my other city. I've paid my 440 bucks. That now makes these 2 M's available to anybody, not just the minor companies. Be kind of attractive to be using them at their lower price, much lower price, through this bad terrain. But I've already started with the track that I could create right to begin with, so I'm kind of stuck with what I'm doing. That's okay. I still have a decent amount of money, but I have a couple $100 here and some income. But if I could have done that, I would have enough money maybe for another train. Of course, these are the only ones that control the pace of trains, and I'm not sure I want to push the trains out terribly fast anyhow. I've got enough trains, but you've got some interesting decisions here in terms of if you go with the metered routes, metered trains, you don't really get control over the trains, but you get excess trains into the mix so that you can run more trains total, and maybe for your company as well, but there's more trains total running throughout India. Just a lot of variables in there that you can kind of fiddle with in your own head. Anyway, that's the end of their action. We've already gone there. And we'll go over to whatever this thing is, NWR, Northwest Railway, I think, and see what we do there. Now he's got to still pay. We've moved into the new phase, which means the green track upgrades are available. You can't just slap green track down, but you can upgrade yellow to green. You can't do that in addition to another track lay, though. That becomes your only track lay for the turn if you do an upgrade. And the other thing is, there is something else. Oh, he's still stuck paying. Anything else going here with this? I believe, not this round, but next round we'll be moving to 2 operating rounds for each company, in between each stock round, plus of course the elephant round. So You know, we've gone through that kind of first phase change. It's not a huge one. The 4 train coming out is the bigger one. And you can see these guys start to get real expensive real fast. There's a lot of money in this game for the companies, but the trains are expensive too. For that company, paid my 20 bucks, got my 2 track lays, mostly hooked up now. Now next turn I only get 1 track lay. It's one of the reasons the 20 buck isn't that big a penalty. There aren't that many turns when you can make 2, it feels like. I discussed that briefly before. It's not like 1870 where you're stretching across the rail and you can lay them one after the other. Here, you got to send them off railheads. Delhi eventually turns into this, so I'm never going to have another branch. I have to come out, I have to break out of here to get that other branch of track that I could lay from. So I'm reaching towards my final destination. I'll get my bond when I get there. I was able to make 60 bucks in the mail run and a 7 buck a share payout, which I paid out. Getting a big cool 21 pounds in my own hand, which isn't a lot of money. But now comes the train option. I have enough cash here to buy another train, but I don't really need one quite yet. Actually, I don't know if I do. Doesn't look like I have very much here. Oh yeah, I got a big 500. Okay. I have enough cash to buy another big train, and I could actually buy a metered train with the thought of running it out of here. But here's the problem. Next round, I could run another train to this location, but I can't, I don't really need one. So I want to hold off. I'll be running my 2 train down to here. I might wish another train once I get close to there, because that's when I start thinking, do I want to run another train into another location? And what do I want that location to be precisely? Where do I want to go? Because it isn't very clear what to do with this company once I get down to here. There's some track established down here that's of interest, but it's doinkers that are kind of more interesting, so I may want to head down here. That's kind of a bonus for the company, an extra 100 pounds in the company treasury. I've got all kinds of places along the border here where I could grab that, but not that necessarily really help the corporation. Then I've got Bombay, which is an interesting target. It's going to be very hard to get to any of the other special cities here. So I think I'm going to hold off on that decision. I may end up building metered track to run down to here or to Bombay even, although that's trickier because somebody's already coming out of there with broad gauge. And that puts us over to the company everybody loves the most, the B&R. Nice things about running out of someplace like Calcutta, a big mail run, 60 bucks, which is important because the B&R is running and spending a lot of money. The hills they built through cost them 160 this turn and another 20 for the track. They're not buying any more trains. I'm just trying to hook it up, get good runs for them. They're making money for everybody and a little bit more for the owner, and that's kind of nice. 10 bucks a share total payout, which is good. And now we go to the optionally non-minor company, which also has to pay if it wants to build double. Okay. So this guy paid out 9 bucks a share and made only 50 from his mail run. And you see he's curving around Ahmadabad. That's because he didn't select that as one of his possible 5 trade companies. He went up here and here, or actually, yeah, I screwed up, didn't I? Oh well. Yeah, I kind of cheated on him. I should have had Ajmer listed rather than Jaipur. I'm gonna change that because I know I don't change a lot of things, but the reason that's important is because otherwise this wouldn't have started as a major company, and I already claimed that it did. So we'll leave that as it is. Jaipur's certainly closer than Delhi, it's at the same value, so we'll go with what we've got there and take Jaipur away. But I do not have to go here, which is the key, because now I'm running two different trains, one on this little segment, one on this little segment. And then I noticed my other screw up, which is I'm running off the track here, and that's just not allowed. This is more or less what I intended. I just didn't see what I'm doing. And we're over to this minor company now. He can only lay one track as normal, and I've got some big decisions to make with regard to him. 40 more bucks, he could buy a real train, but instead he could buy a metered train and hope to break in with dual purpose track, maybe into this space, so he can get to Calcutta. Those are both interesting. Now, here's the problem. If I take the metered track, the way to break into this, the only way to break into this, and I learned this the hard way last time, is if I buy, if I turn it into a city. And if I do that, I'm not getting the advantage anymore. So I think what I'd like to do, what I really want is another two train, but with, I want one of those old trains, and I couldn't buy one. I actually could have bought another one last turn, and I should have. But I'll buy that 3 train there. It's already seen the phase change because of red doing it. And, well, maybe I'll be able to use it somewhere. I'm not sure. But at least it'll last longer than the 2 train will. My mail run should get me enough cash for that, but I gotta be real careful, because running through this mountain is gonna cost me money if I do that. Running through the river will cost me money if I do that. So I'm kind of paying 40 bucks no matter what I do. I may hold off on the train, actually, and just keep expanding. Okay, so indeed I did hold off and built only this track instead. Basically, they both come out the same, costing me 40 bucks. The advantage of holding off is I can still think about metered track here. Maybe something will happen that's different, but I didn't have the cash without swallowing. And I wanted my big 4 bucks a share, or at least the 5 extra bucks a share from paying out, and whatever. The stock market on this is also, like many XX, is not exactly flat. You can see as you hit the high ends of that stock market, you start to make more money per space. So it's important to get a good jump on things. Now, of course, there is the possibility of jumping ahead, but this company doesn't feel like it's going to be making humongous amounts of money. I may be wrong. We'll see. This guy's kind of a little bit downed if it's not able to make good money, because that's where his money is right now. It's certainly not making good starting money. And that leaves the question now to the holder of the elephant. He has choices. He has enough cash to buy himself an ECR. Now, there's no great reason in this game to protect yourself. You don't necessarily want to avoid owning 2 shares of something, for example, because somebody dumps it on you. Well, you could just dump it too. And players do not have to be owning the companies. You don't have to have a director who's a player. You can have a manager instead. Of course, then it won't pay out dividends, but that's no big deal. You should not be holding a share if there's no director. You should get rid of it. So that puts us in this interesting position of, I have enough cash to buy an ECR. I don't have enough cash to buy anything that's better. Do I want to run another time? More and more money will be made. I think the answer is no. I'm going to throw it to a stock round again, because I can buy something and maybe everybody else can't. I'm playing with kind of hidden money here. It's easier when I play solo. It's easier when I play opposed too, because when you're playing opposed, if you know everybody's money, you can exactly calculate whether or not they can do something. So you ask each person how much money they have, then you check their track runs, and then you see, could they buy a train if they wanted to? That's just such an irritation and a slowdown to the game that I would rather play with, hey, we're not sure. okay? Obviously, writing money down becomes the same as open. So if you play by money being open, you might as well, make it really open. If you play allowing people to write the total amounts of all actions taken, etc., down and keep track of everybody's money on paper, make it open to everyone because it's stupid otherwise. But if you are going to restrict to closed money, you have to make sure that people aren't keeping track of it on paper. I mean, that's cheating essentially, just like taking money from the bank would be cheating if you're doing that and you're playing with closed money. All right. So we'll go to that. A viewer discovered a couple of rules errors in my description, one of which is the stock round, which just ended, ends only when nobody buys a certificate. You can sell certificates and that doesn't affect the length of the stock round if you don't buy any. That's a little subtlety that I had remembered but stated incorrectly, following sort of the standard for 18xx. The other was, and I had to look this up before I give it whatever authority my silly little videos have, is that, well, I gotta try to remember it. It has to do with the appointment of the director. It's once the qualifying number of shares has been issued, except in the first round where the director is appointed at the end of the stock round. The director is the largest shareholder and makes his exchange at that point. If more than one player has it, the player who held the share in the company for the largest time takes precedence. No, that's exactly how I had it. And I don't know, maybe it's different in the original version. What was implied here was there was some sort of voting on, well, not voting, but essentially the person who held the share the longest, the oldest share, has the option to choose who has it. Now, having precedence to me means you get the directorship. Okay. So it really does look like the regular 18xx version, except for some reason you don't assign them until the end of the stock round. And I don't understand what the point of that is, to tell you the truth. I do understand one thing. It is a little different from other XXs in that it's not possible to fiddle with the stocks to move who controls it under those circumstances. It doesn't go to the person to the left of the person who just sold them, for example, which is kind of a nice point there. So it is to the stocks that just came out. He passed his elephant in order to pick up an extra certificate. Now, he could have run another operating round and gotten a better share. That's kind of the bottom of the heap right now, I think. Maybe not the very worst, but close to it. And everybody else was able to pick things up. The East Indian Railway is poised to do quite well now with a 3 and a 2 train and track coming out of Calcutta. It's going to be making money, and probably people should have been considering divesting in other things and picking that up. But I'm kind of lazy, and most players usually are when they do. They don't want to dump a lot of stocks and move stocks. So what did we have here? People buying what they could afford. The BBCI, for example, it's 84. That worked out with this guy's cash, so he didn't have to sell the BNR. And the BNR is fine. It's doing very well. It's just the EIR is set up to do better at this point, I think. Although its initial track isn't laid as much, the BNR has more starting track, so I think the BNR is still in good shape. The EIR owner doesn't have enough cash because this railway didn't make a lot of money last turn. It will make some this turn, and likewise over here, the BBCI owner couldn't convert into cash. Now, that was one of the questions. Did he want an EIR? Well, he kind of would have liked another one of his own railway, but I'm having a real hard time here because I keep looking and seeing, oh, I only have 4 certificates. I should buy that. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. 4 certificates is the limit here. Weird situation for me. Obviously, when you get to smaller numbers of players, it goes back up to numbers that I'm more used to. But only being able to hold a minority of your corporation by design, wow, that's kind of painful. This guy, I think, was unable to buy anything either. Low income. I think he picked up another BBCI, I'm not sure. And then oh no, this guy, yeah, that guy bought something new, and I think it was a BBCI, to fill out his portfolio a little more. He had the right amount of cash again. He would have liked to take the BNR instead because the BBCI isn't that valuable. So that put the elephant over there. Does anybody want to buy it? I don't know. You know, I mean, you'd have to buy the elephant, you'd have to almost be telegraphing that you're going to be really, really doing something incredible, like starting a new corporation. And I don't think it's clear at this point that anybody thinks that they can do that right away. So I probably won't see it sell much. I don't think I ever saw it sell for any amount of money in games that, in the one game of this that I played long ago. So it's just a hard thing, because once somebody says, yeah, I'm interested, I'll give you $1 for that. Well, now wait a minute, it's definitely worth more than $1 almost no matter what. So what is it worth to you? And that's kind of the hard thing, because it's kind of nebulous what it's worth until you have a really clear plan of what you want to misuse it for. And then I could see a couple of players getting into a bidding war over it to try to protect their holding. Unfortunately, you don't have a chance to make that bidding until the stock round's done. So, you know, hey, you want to put your neck on the line based on that? This game, though, isn't that cruel. You're not going to face the 1830 type situation where, hey, somebody can destroy you if they have priority on you and you're holding too many shares. That's just not the case in this game. You can always get out of the company too. Okay, so now entering the first of what are going to be 2 operating rounds because of the phase change, plus an optional one. The EIR makes its free additional play, but it's still spending money out going across these rivers. It's got a nice mail run now at $60 a share, or $60 into the company treasury, and it ran for 11 a share paying out, which isn't bad at all. Still, maybe not as extremely beneficial as you might think. Thing is, they have extra trainage on here. They're running essentially a 1 train here and a 2 train, and they've got a 2 and a 3. Major happening after that first operating round. We go to the second one now. And just talk a little bit about it. The BNR pulled 11 a share in. This little got about 8. This guy 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're seeing kind of a, all right, everybody's making about the same except for this poor sucker who's only making 4 a share. I could make more if I could build another train and shoot up there, but the problem is I just don't know what the circumstances are going to be that are going to allow me into Calcutta. And I'm just pushing onward with my little 2 train ready to add to this. Now that'll bring me up to 7 a share, which is not as far behind, but he's definitely losing cash. And this guy's cursing having bought one of those crap. But he didn't have too much choice, except that he could have run another round. He'll be selling that soon. So we go to another operating round, and again, same order as before. Everybody's been paying out. Nobody's been doing anything too exciting. There's some thoughts about trains, you know, like here. I'm thinking about a metered train to run down there still, and I think that's where I'm going. I'm still thinking about a metered train here just because that'll make me more money than any other option. But I kind of passed up my chance for it. The reason being, I could have... See, a 3 train will get me into Calcutta. And that's one reason to build the 3 train. I've got enough cash at this point that I may start, as soon as I hook this up, I may start working my way up there. We'll see. Yeah, no, I don't have enough cash because this costs me money. But I will have enough cash after that $60 run. Alright, so I guess we start over again with the operating round. Second operating round, we're seeing some interesting things. First of all, I forgot to pay out so far, but the EIR slowly inching its revenue upward. It is going to be making good money at this period as it expands more. Have to head to look now because that's on my contract, but I'm setting up track that could be an alternative route, so I don't have to go through all those cities, and so that I can hit lots of doinkers and richer cities as I go. Of course, later in the game, these cities can become richer, so that may not be a big deal, but I'm leaving my options open with the track I'm laying without having to change my strategy on the board at all. Then going over to the next company, which is the NWR, he just hooked up. Now, I haven't paid out my 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a share yet, which is going to go out. I'm sorry, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 a share. I can't reach here on a 2 train. I can only hit 2 dots. But I am buying a train, and I already paid for that. I picked up a metered train. I'm planning on heading down this way. I made sure of one thing, which is that if I do decide to go building multiple track plays at a turn, I can do that. I just have to have multiple stations involved. And here's the problem. If I build a station here, or if I don't, I'm still only allowed to build one set of track out of it. So unless I start building out of here or something, it's not going to really help me. So again, that $20 initial track lays helped me get to this point where I'm going to be getting, so I just hooked up my, this is player 5, Multan, Lahore, and Delhi. Well, there's Delhi, there's Lahore, and here's Multan. I just hooked up my bid, so I'm going to get, granted I had the smallest bid, 80 bucks back in my capital. And should be able to find that here. That's 90. There we go. 80 bucks. And you know, that's an extra share that I can buy now because I managed to hook that up. That's definitely worthwhile, and it didn't really hurt my track, although I kind of do like the idea of trying to maybe head towards Calcutta. That's not where my company's supposed to operate. My company's supposed to operate right where it is, and that's where it can put its tokens, and that's where it can do track upgrades. So I'd be really limited if I tried to play in this area. It's just, you know, the nature of these. They have a geographical constraint on them. All right, I'll pay out those dividends and then continue on. Mistake. The bond was for 90, even if the bid for the cities was 80. So he got the 90 back. I had it positioned right in the box. I thought I was a little confused there. After that payout, we're beginning to see the BNR or whatever it is beginning to connect up. Or successfully connecting up. He's got two trains running, one from here to here. Bigger 70 bucks for the mail run, and then a little tiny one here. He's got some choices as to how he wants to go. He wants to connect up Hyderabad. Everybody knows that because the bid that he put in got him 3 green shares, and that's the only way to do it. He could go straight through, or he could kind of curve around. And if he goes straight through, what does he want to do? Does he want to convert that and then maybe build a narrow gauge track down in the south where it makes a lot of sense? I don't know. He can hold off on the decision though. He doesn't need a new train yet. He's got two trains. One can run between these two, one can run between these two. So until he actually builds Hyderabad, he doesn't need to think about that too much. Same situation this guy's in, and he was able to delay for, or no, he wasn't able to delay. He had to make his decision. But he didn't have to buy the train this turn because he's making the upgrade of the track. Once you decide to go for the metered train, you don't have to buy it right away. If you don't go for the metered train, you do, though. Then over here with the BBCI, we had the first swallow. And swallows are very rare in this game. He didn't have enough cash to make this mountain and to make his 20 buck extra run. Hard call. Doesn't want to make the swallow if the elephant's not going to exercise his option. Because he'd get that extra, what turns out to be 40 bucks. It was 10 bucks a share in his pocket. However, if the elephant makes the option, he gets his hookup. And if he can get his hookup, that's well worth That's an additional share for an extra set of operating rounds. That's well worth the swallow, the effect of that. Especially since you can only hold 40% of your company. Speaking of which, well, we're going to see what he does with his East Coast Railways and whether he's collected enough money that he feels he can go ahead, or whether he needs to make an extra operating round. Oh, he's got a big $60 mail run. He's only making $7 a share. I think he's going to go ahead with the expensive track through here. He doesn't have enough money to buy the train and get that track. And the feeling is kind of, well, I want to keep the game as slow as possible at this point. I don't really think I want to run more operating rounds here. I'm not sure. This is a hard decision because it's not clear what all the implications of running another operating round are. But I look at my cash on hand and I pretty much have enough to buy one share no matter what, even if I make this other run. So it's not going to really help me personally to get that money, and it's not going to really help my railway in any sense. Another stock round where there are only these stocks available sounds fine to me, although I can't be sure that that's how it's going to fall out. It's not like if I do this that it's going to open up a new set of stocks. There's still a lot of 3 trains out there. Nobody's really throwing. You can really, really push the trains out in this under some circumstances because there is a good deal of money in the companies. And that can have a pretty hefty effect on the income of the companies. It's not going to destroy a player. Alright, so we're going to jump to the next stock round, and what are we on time here? I think I'm going to do another whole sequence around on this video because I'm still loading a video up. Conclusion of the stock round, we're beginning to see some of the stocks selling out rather well. Obviously the BNR, which was pretty close, we see one of those has gotten ditched back into the pool because the EIR stocks are a little more valuable, especially in the sense here someone was able to, trying to see who, I think this guy, turn a BNR in at 100 and immediately rebuy a par value of EIR, which is worth 115. So that's kind of a nice factor here in terms of improving your holdings. Now, when you're looking at, should I ditch, I don't know, one of these NWRs to pick something up? This guy probably should have done that to pick up the BNR. He'd only make $4 in the transaction, which isn't worth anything, but he'd have a more valuable share in his hand. He likes the diversity, though. It means that if the obvious situation is none too obvious, if this is able to break out and do well with its 2 trains, well, he's actually got a piece of the action, as it were, which is something now a lot of people are beginning to have. He thought he was kind of alone. He's in this weird position as the investor in this game because he has no company. And unlike in 1830, or even in in anything except 35, which has really that limitation on being able to buy shares that I'm familiar with, out of the games I'm familiar with, he has no ability to start a new company. All he can do is buy up shares that are available to him. He's got to wait until all of these are sold out. And that's actually one reason to make exchanges with certificates. But, well, if he throws this in here, these will still be cheaper, so people aren't going to disregard it. Anyhow, what do we have for shareholdings right now? 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this guy's he should be one of the poorest people on the board, but he's holding a little bit more certificate. He's had the worst performing company, I think, or one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That seems about normal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This guy was actually why the elephant is over here. He was able to buy an additional share. That additional share was just a crappy East Coast Railway one, though, which probably are not the most valuable on the board. And here, 2, 3, 4, 5, falling behind with that EAR still. He's playing for the long game. I don't know how well that'll work here. He can only have 40% of his company. Now, the rest of it's spread out. One person has 20. But there are certainly times when you might be facing this where you're looking at a 40-40 split. And what do you do then? You know, I mean, you're just trying to optimize your rail so you beat everyone else, but also trying to optimize the holdings you have over the other person who might be investing in it. As it stands now, though, he's got a big holding in it. It doesn't look likely that that's going to drop out of other people's hands very early because it is still one of the big producers. We'll see if it can keep doing that. If it can, he may have a chance. If it can't keep being a big producer, well, then probably somebody will start dumping shares, and a significant portion, if it does rebirth, might end up in someone else's hands. All right, let's start the operating rounds. And there's one nice thing here. No little private companies that pay out all their little special bonuses at the beginning of each operating round. It's nice not to have that. I always find that an annoyance, especially so. Almost done with the operating round. We've seen a few interesting things. Just most of it just kind of expansion. The green rail deciding to go through the boinkers. And they don't gain a hell of a lot from this. The only thing they gain is personal money for the president. Now, he has at least one more operating round to hook in. If he really wanted that money next time, he would have had to set it up this time. But he's going to work his way through these doinkers and collect them up, make this a richer run for himself. On the other hand, let's see. Red continuing their slow progress. Black, NWR, did a tile upgrade. So they didn't really increase their value of their run. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Just 8 a share. This sucker, though, hit up there, I think 17. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 off 2 trains. That's kind of sweet. And I think that's my top run so far. What did the Reds get? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they're running a 3 train as well. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So they're, you know, it's a close call there, but does that make sense? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, yeah. I'm not sure I collected that much, but it would have been close. It must have been. Anyway, we're beginning to see some heavier stock payouts. There aren't a lot of people with BBCIs. This guy's got 40%, but we've only got 2 investors of that. Nobody really saw that that was going to be a real money maker here. And now nobody's buying trains. Now we're kind of at the final dude, and I got to make that hard choice on him. We did that upgrade here, and you can see that doesn't increase the value when you do the, I'm going to upgrade the track instead of the city, the station itself. So you have this option. If you upgrade to the same kind of track you have, you get that increase in value that you're used to in an XX game. And you got to watch it because some of the upgrades aren't what you expect. They follow certain general rules. It's kind of weird to hunt them down when you see things like that. This guy is going to be going with the metered train. We'll see how that works. With that, he had the cash. He blasted through this for 140 bucks, but he gets 100 back because of this. That gave him enough. That is 440 for a 3 train. He picked that up. The 3 train's important because he can run boom, 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 3 cities. That's something that no one... And then he's got the little 2 train running down here. He's not getting a lot of boinkerage. He may need to try to do something to fix that. But that's going to be a lot of work that maybe won't pay off in the sense that he'll build track that he's not going to ever get to actually use, because when upgrades start coming, what does Madras turn into, for example? And this is one of the problems, is you got to kind of pay attention to, hey, what do these things become? So Madras turns into something that actually he can move through. So it becomes less valuable for him to try to upgrade this. He might upgrade tracks or something, who knows. But at this point, he's got a very simple mission in hand, which is to move forward and get himself to Calcutta. That's actually what his bond is, so it's pretty important there. And I believe I took my 60 bucks, but I haven't made the run yet, which will be 7 a share, which is not any better than it was. One key event. This links up player one's bond, which was 120 bucks. So he'll have enough money for at least another share, and then some in his hands when he goes into the next round, next stock round. All right, so we go back to the EIR, and he's got a little bit of a problem here. His train gets him a 2 and a 1, 2, 3. But that won't get him all the way to Delhi. You can pick up these boinkers, but he's got to smooth this out somehow. And that's going to be a tricky problem for him. I'm going to have to look at the little charts here. That gets him his bond, and that's what he really wants right now. But let's see. The 3 goes to a 12. Okay, I could turn it into a city. That's not terribly useful. I've got enough cities up here. What else can I turn it? 14, 15, 7, 16. Yeah, these are all cities, so I'm not going to be able to convert these easily. And likewise, the 1 doesn't even promote. Well, that's fine with me. What I could do is convert a city here to get me into here, and that'll be 1 less city that I have to go through. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing, but not until I get things hooked up. Of course, I might end up buying more train. I don't think I have a lot of cash on the company though, and I hate swallowing. The track set's too small. I'm out of curved doinkers. It means it's going to take me another operating round beyond what I thought to get there as I head up this way. Now I may actually whip through these then. Before I must have miscalculated when I was speaking about the EIR. There we're at 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. 110, 120, 140, 150. Yeah, they're up to like 180 a share now, I guess. I don't know. Now I'm thinking, whoa, I only gave him 16 last time. What the hell? Yes, here's why. That's a 2 train, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. They could go out to 100 there. And now they have a 3 train. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm probably cheating them every which way. Who knows? Over here, we have the first use of the narrow gauge track coming out of there, and it's a problem for this train for the same reason this train couldn't hit here. Well, it's just making a 3 run right now. It can't go on to that solid gauge, so I'm running the other train out to here, which works fine, but you know, obviously I'm not making the kind of money that I could otherwise. I think I'm making 11. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Forgot to mention I dropped my token there. That's a $40 token. You get the first 2 free if you're a major company, and that includes for this company where one of the $100 tokens disappears as a freebie. Your next token's 40 bucks, and then they're 100 each. That's pretty much standard 1830 or with 1830, and the other XXs, a lot of them follow that kind of view, but not all of them. Like 2038 does not. Okay. So why did I want to speak here? I wanted to speak about the dot, but we're also up to running this. We haven't done that yet. The green company ran. He had to take a sharp hook because the wide hooks are gone again. No reason to be hunting those suckers down. It's time, you know, to turn in. If the elephant chooses, and the elephant's in the red player's hands, if the elephant chooses another round, I get in there and I get my bond. If he doesn't, oh well, I'm screwed. But I'm not going to diddle around looking for a way to get in here by curving around. We have to make the decision on the elephant, but just to catch up here, an upgrade here and a dot there. The dot's important because that lets me hit Delhi. Otherwise, this company with its 2-2 trains couldn't hit Delhi. Now I've got one more dot available. This is, you know, really kind of a regional line anyway. It's meant to be a minor company, but can be a major. I might be able to get to one more big place with it, maybe. Probably not. But what is really awesome here is I'm going to be able to shoot track out of here and hit Delhi again. And if I can get a dot somewhere else, now I can get it as far away as Kanpur. I could hit Delhi again. So I can make this a very, very important location. And the dot is not important here at all because of what Delhi turns into. It turns into this, which is just a bunch of tracks loose. And eventually, it doesn't get any better. It could turn into that. Either Calcutta or Delhi turns into the gray track. And the ability to make the decision of which one it is going to become one of those key moments where a purchase of a train could change the focus of at least a significant amount of the income exchange. It's not going to change the track at all. It's still going to be a bunch of them little balls for Delhi and Calcutta, but that's okay. Control of who gets to play this is also kind of important because these pieces have a blank side. If that blank side ends up facing one of these entries that I'm looking for the blue track, then they could lose cash off that, whereas if it ends up here, well, nobody's going to mind too much except the people who don't like blue. The pale blue position themselves further on. They're running on almost no money. Basically, whatever money they make off the mail run is what they can have to build track, but they're kind of out, they're at the end of their track laying time. They couldn't do the broad curve over here, which would have caused them some problems actually. And so they're going to be trying to juncture next turn. Now somebody could try to cut them off, but I don't know that they're terribly worth wasting a track lay on. This is one of the hard choices in an XX game. When you have the opportunity to screw someone over, do you want to take it or not? Certainly if they're in the lead, you do. But is this guy? He's not. However, if you don't have any shares of his company, you can be sending him into the dumpster and taking a very limited penalty yourself. Now, he's not really going into the dumpster, but his company will not be able to make income for a while, and somebody else could then cut off that track again. Always a tough choice for me when to play defensive track plays to prevent someone from getting into your area. For one thing, once they get into your area, and Green's probably not too worried about this, but hey, if I open this up into a city and put a blue dot here, Green is no longer able to make the runs that they can. So they don't like this. They really don't like it. And they may well play defensively there for the sole purpose of protecting themselves. Of course, they also have their own desire down here. But how can they trust blue coming in here? Well, blue could say, I promise not to put a dot there. Yeah, for how long? And what if somebody else does? And what's going on here? I don't want you to do that, right? Hard calls. The dot's not necessary because they have the same kind of track. So the desirable thing would actually be to play this. Now, unfortunately, blue had to buy a 3 train. And the reason they had to buy a 3 train was because if they did the meter grade to here, or the meter gauge track to there, they would have to have a city there. And then they'd only have a 2-metered train, and that's no good. Hard calls all around, right? What do I do with that 3 train now? Well, I can branch out somewhere, I guess. Probably out of here someday, maybe, who knows. Or when my 2's obsolete, I've got a perfect little 3 run, whatever. it may still behoove me to play that track there. Now, what about green? Do they want to hook this up? Well, maybe. Maybe this is kind of cool for them. I don't know. But is it cool without a dot? If they upgrade this to a city, that causes them a world of problems. I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on, but I don't think blue's going to get in there the way they expect. The elephant decides, no. You can only lay one track. So, it doesn't really help him to push forward, does it? Well, next time, he gets to lay 2 track and get in. Yeah. So, I think what the elephant doesn't see a point to throwing another operating round, so we're going to push it over to the stock round. And that means this one's going to go up. Another thing I just noticed, these little cubes are really annoying. For one thing, the money bumps them, and they move more easily than counters on a chart do. Of course, the chart takes a lot less space with the little cubes on it than it would in a normal stock market chart. So whatever. But here's what I don't like about them. There's no way of indicating who's actually taken their action yet. So if I forget to move someone forward, I can't be sure. Now I know 4 ahead is good for everyone except for dark blue, who's only 3 ahead. But especially when I walk away, it's a pain in the butt. The regular counter system where you flip tokens over, that works so much better for me. All right, up this one.